All right, let's head out to that studio in the sky. Annette LaFortune is joining us today, and what a last name, LaFortune. She's an author. I'm very excited to have her on. Iconic Route 66 character or author or personality, depending on which thesaurus I'm looking at today. So I'm going to transition to the greeting to how are you today? Just kind of.
Oh, I am great, Jason. Thank you so much for taking time to do this interview.
Well, I appreciate this and taking the time out. You know, you can see if you're watching the video that there's some books in the background, and my understanding and my assumption is that those are authored by you and they're connected to Route 66. Is that correct?
That is correct. Two of these books behind me are my books that the first one was written and finished and published in 2022. And that it's an ABC book from all 8 states on the route, 32 pages, traditional picture book, but it is full of beautiful artwork. I actually hired the illustrator for the 8 state passport in 2022. She had just completed it for its annual review that goes into all the shops along the entire route. So that was a lot of fun. And then the second book, you see, can't see it that well, Meet Cyrus Avery. That was a story that has been on my mind and in my heart for years since I was a teacher. I was teaching Tulsa history, and we were in an ABC curriculum, ABC Tulsa history. And the first letter was C, Cyrus Avery. I'm a Tulsan, just like he was a Tulsan. And I knew so little about him. I was embarrassed that I couldn't really teach it well. I had a teacher's syllabus in front of me, but I took a break from teach. Actually, when I retired, I took some time to gather all these stories that I'd been working on. But that one it was a lot of research. It was 3 years of constant digging through materials, visiting his archives at OSU Tulsa here in my city, as well as interviewing people that could help me put his story together. So those are my two books that I have to talk about. But I do have other things related to Route 66 in
Mhm.
my life now. So we can talk about that as it goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I love being an author. It's very much it's a huge part of my life.
Meet Cyrus Avery, father of Route 66, and ABC, What Do You See? Rolling Along Route 66 is the books that we're talking about. Annette LaFortune Murray. Is that the full name?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And LaFortune's your middle name, or is that a
It's my
hyphenated
maiden
last
name.
name? Maiden name.
My maiden
Okay.
name.
All right. Not to get personal or anything like that, but that's such a cool last name. And then I thought, boy, if that's a middle name, that's even more cool. Okay, but the thing that really caught my eye with the way that you are presenting a lot of what you're doing is storytelling. And for me, this is one of the things that Route 66 really is all about. It's the storytelling, the freedom of storytelling, to have your own story, to own your own voice. And when I was looking at how to attack this project, I like you, I love research, and so I did deep dives into Route 66, and it's really hard to find an angle that has not been done on Route 66, including the ABCs of Route 66. And I give this example all the time that as soon as I saw that there was a group in Kansas who only has 13 miles of Route 66, and they have a Kansas Parrot Head Route 66 Association, I went, boy, this is a niche road. This is
Right.
People love this road. Holy cow! If the Parrot Heads of Kansas have a annual get together based on a highway, this is fantastic. And then I saw when I started talking about this on social media, people were coming out of the woodwork type of a thing where one gentleman just drove the whole route and just did sports arenas and stadiums and anything that had to do with sports along Route 66, all the way to a pastor who did a devotional for every mile. And
Oh my.
so, exactly, can you imagine?
2,448 miles.
That's what I thought. I'm like, well, boy, this guy's got the patience of Job. Holy kidding. And so I looked at how did you come up with yours? The ABCs is fantastic. I'm curious about that. The Cyrus Avery I get. That's probably was that your first one? Was that your gateway into Route 66 research and
Actually,
literary?
yes, it was the gateway because I was in the work, research was in the works, the
Mm-hmm.
topic, the character, the setting, everything was there. Then I enrolled in a writing course, picture book writing course. And one of our assignments was okay, here are these genres of books. You have mysteries, you have nonfiction, you have ABC, you have biographies, things like that. So I chose an ABC book and I thought, well, what do I know a lot about? I had just come off 2 years of research. I said, I think I'll put an ABC book together about the root because I had 3 binders of information that I had already collected. So that was not, I wrote it in a weekend, but then, I fine-tuned it for 6 months before I showed it to anyone.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, it was a really fun activity, very mind challenging because I'm a linguist and a language person, but to put it, you have all these letters like X and U and W and Y, and you have to make it work. So yeah, it was very, very challenging, but very fun for me.
And where are they available?
They are available at all the indie bookstores. If you want it, they can order it. Barnes and Nobles are very great about carrying it. It is on Amazon. It is on my website, AnnetteMurrayBooks.com. And I do a lot of pop-ups. I do here in the state of Oklahoma. I'm doing a big push for this centennial that, invite me to your location, your business, and I will provide a 1 hour lecture question Q&A. Plus, you can take a look at my books. So I'm pitching myself both as a speaker and an author.
Centennial year should be a few people out there looking to talk to the Route 66 expert, if you will. And I say that because in my notes it says that you've actually driven a few times along
Yes.
Route 66. So much like the way that before I write a story on skydiving, I want to go and do skydiving. I want to we call that method journalism, and it
Right.
sounds to me like you're a method storyteller, or at least experiential storyteller, which I think that's lost in today's world, especially in today's artificial intelligence world. Um, how were the experiences along Route 66? How many times have you done it?
Well, I've done each stretch 3 times. It's divided into thirds by my geographic location. I drive the Tulsa to Chicago, and then that's section one. Then I'll take Oklahoma City to Albuquerque, that's section two. Then I fly to Vegas, get the car and go to Kingman, back up on Arizona to Winslow. Then I go all the way to Pasadena. So that's how I travel when I'm taking the route.
That's interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
there's some days where I don't want to stop. Seriously, when I get to Albuquerque, I'm ready to keep going to the west. I love what I'm seeing out there in the desert. It's very diverse, very different from where I live in the Midwest.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about from Albuquerque to Flagstaff, that's up near the Grand Canyon and Sedona and some very beautiful country up there. Not much up there though. I mean, for people, there's not a lot of people up there.
No, there's not a lot of people, but if you
No.
know ahead, if you've done a little bit of research, I knew I wanted to make it to Seligman, Arizona. That's the home of Angel Delgadillo and his snow shack. He and his family started that. He was a barber in the early 1930s, and his family owned a shop. And I mean, it's still going, and he's 99. I think he turned 100 this year, but he's the one who kept the shops and the businesses open during the decommissioning days. I mean, he really was the angel of the route. He kept lobbying in his state government. He kept writing articles, contacting news magazines, saying we can't close these shops. That'd be devastating for the state. But here he is today. He's a true success story.
That's another interesting aspect of the Route 66 that I hadn't put together till now. Each state really has become a different type of champion, really.
Yeah.
And when you take a look at, Springfield says they're the birthplace of Route 66. Then,
Right.
of course, you have Oklahoma that says they're the home or I forget what's
Capital.
capital of
Well,
Route
yeah, and
66.
Tulsa has been called the capital of the route.
Yeah, and capital of the route, exactly. And Oklahoma, of course, even goes down the longest mileage. They have the most miles. Arizona, they say they saved Route 66. That's what a lot of their marketing is, and stories like you're talking about. And they identify several people. Oh, his name is Angel, isn't it? Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, and so yeah, exactly. And so they talk that's interesting. And then um I'm not sure what California is quite known for, but Illinois just changed. Oh, I suppose you got the start and the end is kind of what they're known for. But anyway, I just am processing in real time. I'm not trying to write another book here or anything along those lines, but that's another story, another avenue, another slice that Route 66 really can produce. Do you have any stories or rough drafts that you either would like to do or are currently working on?
Well, I use a voice memo if I travel and I have had a really cool interview or very spontaneous. I do a lot of hiking in New Mexico and in the park areas, and I'll meet people. But I'll try to before I go to sleep. I always get the voice memo out. I'll just say four sentences: who it was, where I met, what we discussed, and do I really want to continue do I want to keep it as a story in my story bank? And so I kind of approach it like that. Is it valuable enough to me? So they're mostly recorded and out of my voice, just short and sweet. But I'm definitely incorporating them in my speeches that I give. Like tonight, I'm going to be talking to the Model A Club of Tulsa, Oklahoma, uh, at the public library. And I am speaking on the women of the route who influenced the route. And so they're going to see 15 women that I'm just bringing random names that I have studied and had either an experience with, they might be living because it's the past, present, and the future women who were influential. So, yes, there's some stories there where I have had a personal conversation with that person, even a follow up. I always say, may I have your phone number? Can we chat after, if I have any questions? And they're not well developed stories at this point. They are in my memory and in my heart about who did I like when my audience sees a big picture of a black and white image of a person from the 1940s who started a cantina from her grandparents, who she inherited it, and now she married an American serviceman, and they had a family, and they have 30 people that now live in their community related, and they're running this business that started in 1931. So those are the kind of stories um, I do need to take notes when I'm going to present that in a way because they'll see that person on a slide in my show. So I need to have my data there in my mind ready to speak. So yes, but now, as I've done now probably 15 presentations on the women of the root. So I'm becoming very fluid, very organic about the stories that I tell.
It would seem like you would connect with a lot of these business owners because so many of the Route 66 businesses are small business owners. You're a small business owner. Um, Obviously, there's some um, like-mindedness there just from the size and from everything else, but just being able to connect with the news of the day, if you will, because what what affects a small business owner in Joliet affects one in Tulsa and affects one in Kingman these days.
That's
And
right.
so, yeah, I mean, so that I would say that would be kind of your point of view on a lot of this, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Connect,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And this was only the last 5 years of my life. I was an educator and until almost COVID. And then as I had retired and then I began writing and then I thought, how do I get the books out? I better go meet these people because my book was so small and I used a hybrid publisher. They did some advertising for me, but that was our deal. I would do the writing, they would do the editing, formatting, publishing, and then see you later, Annette, good luck. So that's been my second job is learning how to be a marketer. But
Well, and
I find it very fun. It's very entertaining to me. I'm challenged. I meet cool people. I meet some people that um, actually nobody has said, I don't want you to talk. I don't want to answer your questions. No one on the route has ever said that to me.
and with
They're
the
always,
Centennial, you could branch into Kansas City and Austin, Texas, and I mean, there's going to be people all over the United States curious about Route 66. So there's good opportunity.
yes, I
At
agree.
least this year. At least,
Yeah.
excuse me there. The other part that I wanted to get your perspective on, and especially now that I know that you're new to this, and by new, 5 years, uh, I was explaining this to somebody the other day because, I've been in the media since I was 10 years old, actually. I started as a newspaper carrier. And
Yes.
back in those days, we were 1099 employees. We actually, I was a small business owner at age 10, and we'd have to go deliver 150 newspapers every day. I still tell people to this day, from age 10 to age 16, when I was a newspaper carrier, that was the hardest job I've ever had to do in my life because it was every day, and it was, we had to collect at night, small child carrying around hundreds of dollars in cash, type of a thing, going from door to door. Before, by the way, sex offender registry, there was three on my route. I found out about 20 years later. I mean, so it was a different world back then. But to give you where I'm going with this is that a lot has changed in the last 10 years with the media. When the internet came out, the newspaper industry went through a major paradigm shift. Um, when you take a look at most newspapers, they had a monopoly in the city they were in for like 50 years, 75 years. You go to any city outside of like a dozen, there was one newspaper. That's it. That's a monopoly. And within 3 years of the internet coming out and Too Big to Fail, 2008, everybody went bankrupt. I mean, all these newspapers went through this paradigm shift known as the internet, and then boom. So they had to, they had to change. And during that time, I was interviewing. Do you remember the Nelson twins, the musicians? There were these.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Ozzy and Harriet was their grandparents. Ricky Nelson was their father. Mark Harmon was their uncle, and their third generation Hollywood, I guess,
Yes.
music. And when they were coming through town, I interviewed them when they were playing some state fair or something like that. Still to this day, one of the best interviews I've ever had about the media because this is when MySpace was coming out, and they were using MySpace like a lot of the other musicians were because they were monetizing it, figured out a way to make money. And what Matthew Nelson told me, and this is what reminds me of you with your instincts with what you're doing, is that he said your song now becomes your commercial for your live event.
Yes.
So if I write a book or if I write a magazine or if I do a podcast, that's my commercial for the live event, which you basically go on tour. I was telling someone the other day when I do my Route 66 thing, I'm essentially going on tour because if I'm going to
Absolutely.
do a 2 to 3 hour show every day, I have to look at it like I'm going on tour. So how can I pay for my gas? How can I pay for my hotel? Well, maybe I got to sell some Route 66 stuff. I'm going to sell some dog cooling blankets because I traveled my dog and I don't want to compete with like the people selling Route 66 stuff. So I got to also think about that as well. But that's how you make most of your money, isn't it? When you go and you do these on-site live location tours, isn't it? Or talk to me a little bit about, I'm not looking to reverse engineer your business plan or anything along those lines, but the world's changed, especially since COVID. And so,
Yes.
yeah, just talk
Yes.
to me a little bit about what I just unpacked there.
Well, I find there's three different sources of sales when I travel. There's the prearranged sale that happens by I email, do a phone call, I email again, I send a copy. Those would be people like museums, libraries. Um, but anyway, that's the first way is pre-sale, prompt your customer that you're coming. The second one is take it with you and show it. Just have a little,
Hmm.
um, basically a trunk showing your goods, like gypsies used to do. Take that with you. And my sister-in-law who traveled with me the first time around, she was just thought it was hilarious. I had more luggage and I said, don't bring a very big suitcase because the car is all full of books. Anyway, by the third day, she knew how to go find the books and take them into these businesses. I got back to the car and she was selling. But it's so easy to like see a person in a shop and then they're going to hear you dialoguing with the manager and they're going to say, "Oh, you got a kid's book? Can we look at it? Because we've got the kids in the car." And I mean, I've done it that organically as, that sale was happening very, of course they bought it and then I signed it and then everybody's happy. I've stayed in hotels where kids see me speaking to the clerk, and they'll see that I'm unloading more books, and they'll say anyway. It was a great little family from Germany. I'd seen them next to me for 3 nights in New Mexico, and then they were leaving the third morning. They knocked on my door and they go, "The boys want a book that you signed." So anyway, you just have to promote yourself. You also have to let people know who you are, what you love to do, and why you're doing it. So that'd be the second item. The third way is digitally. Use your internet service, use your social media.
Hmm.
That's challenging for me because I'm a one-person business. I work as hard as I can to learn what everyone who is successful, how are they doing this? How do they make it work? So I do a little bit of copycatting. I might try some little gimmicks on social media that help. I have a newsletter, I have a blog. Those seem to be very popular. And I'm just learning from people who have already walked the path before me. I am in some groups called Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. That's great for if you write young adult or below in age-wise, use those kind of resources. Those people know what they're doing. Some of them have huge multi-million dollar contracts. And then there's people that, I've started my own press because I thought I had waited for the submissions and the answers to come. I thought, I don't have 8 months to wait for a letter to come back. I said, and I like my story the way it is. I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure this out. So I had a small LLC to begin with. Um, 8 years ago, I had a small company in Tulsa called Tulsa Whimsy, and I was all about selling the art and the history of my city. We had a city flag. I had a new little fun pillow that I'd created, sold it in the Route 66 shops, and it was very popular. And I really began educating the buyers about the history of my city. Then I started into the writing, and it was my wheel was getting bigger and well oiled, and I was running faster and faster with gathering all this information that I was so excited to share. Route 66. And boy, it's a big one. When you have 8 states and you can dig in and spend as much time as you want on one particular area. I probably did that with my ABC book because I had the 8 state platform ready and waiting. Um, I will say that with my Cyrus Avery book, it's been a lot more calming to focus on his life. That's really what that book is about. And yes, it is more of, you would think it's a biography, but that was my challenge as an educator to put that story into a familiar framework that kids could understand. Who is that guy? What did he do? And I call him a hidden hero, a dreamer who brought the world to his town. And that's mainly because he was always creating and inventing. And we know inventors, they spend time thinking, they also rely on the people around them. So that's, I guess that was a long answer for a it had a three-prong answer. I'm sorry I took too long.
No, that's okay. I get it. It's small businesses and in the media and the content world and in the education world. I would tell people all the time that, I generally, when I'm doing a media company or a media brand, I try to come up with 6 different ways to create revenue, to create
Yes.
to create money. Doesn't mean I can get 6, but I try to because some months this one might not be doing as well as this one, and some months it might be this one. But you also have to understand that nickels make dollars, and you have to be okay with a lot of those different things. And you're joking about the car and the luggage and everything, but when I was putting this business plan together, I actually consciously asked myself, what can I sell out of the trunk? Okay, what's my trunk money going to be? And again, I went through the different thought processes because I don't want to do a T-shirt that would compete with somebody who I'm trying to promote, and I'm not looking to sell my books because there's enough authors out there that need to make money off of it, and this is the year to make hay while the sun shines. So I'd rather promote than compete. And so that's when I went to the dog things, because I'm gonna actually, a whole vein of my Route 66 is going to be dogs, is going to be pets. And so
Excellent.
yeah,
Excellent.
because there's not a lot on that either. There's really not on the whole thing. So maybe if I can get a Route 66 bowl or something like that made. But yeah, for me, it's something as silly as these dog cooling mats to start with, because you can buy them in bulk for a couple bucks, and if you sell them for $10 during the summer, that's a good impulse buy for people.
Sure, sure is.
and
Yeah.
and so, but hey, all this is two small business owners trying to figure out how we're going to pay for gas going from Tulsa to Oklahoma City here, folks. Sorry for the sidebar. But that's the kind of the reality of it. Um, so, you mentioned that you're going to be speaking here soon. Do you have any events that you're going to be speaking at that you want to plug to let people know about?
Oh, well, sure. This month I have, um, let's see. Well, next Thursday or next Wednesday night, our public library has invited. First, they reached out to me as an author. They said, "Would you come and speak about, do you want to do a little program for kids about your book?" And I've already done the ABC book as a storytime book. I said, now I have a little bit older audience to deal with, but I said, what I really want to do is present women of the root. Could we put together a panel? And I said, I could gather some local people, and she said, "Oh my gosh, yes, librarians know so many people." So they started inviting a couple of there's an impersonator who's a Bessie Springfield. She was a African American woman who rode a Harley across the United States 8 times in the 1930s. Had 14 years of riding and have doing her business. As I don't really know what she
Move
did,
over, Easy Rider, huh?
but
That's the real story there. Eight
right.
times?
And this morning we filmed a short info commercial with a local TV station that's going to promote this for next week. So
Oh,
that's
good.
next Thursday. I'm sorry, Wednesday, April 29th. Um, May, I have a couple of church groups. I've done a Rotary Club. And then I get pretty busy I'm going to some conferences for myself. In March, I went to the Texas Library Association, and with thousands of Texans and really people from across America librarians who come to buy books. The end of June, I'm going to Chicago to American Library Association. I will be selling there. I'm a part of Independent Book Publishers of America, and that is it's actually an international association, but it's all for people like me. They basically hold our hands and say, here's what might work for this. Here's a good conference to go to. Here's how you grow your newsletter audience. I mean, they have answers to all of our questions. But I'll be in Chicago from June 25th, 6th, and 7th. And I will be at the IBPA booth for a morning and then one afternoon. And I'm just so appreciative. I've been that librarian who has attended that conference. 25,000 librarians show up. Every year they do this in a different city in America. And those are the people out with their radars out for like, what do you want to buy for the kids next year? We need to have, and then they'll make their lists, and then they'll and they'll acquire a lot of free things, and they'll go home and they'll place orders. So, that's where I'd like my books to be. And I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to go there and to sell my books.
Where's this 25,000 librarians getting together?
That will be in Chicago at the
Okay.
McCormick Center, Convention Center downtown.
And
I
when is
was,
this?
it is June 25th, 26th, 27th
Okay.
in
Okay.
Chicago.
All right.
So,
I'll be in Chicago June 1st. Okay. Wow,
you-
that's a lot of library. I'm a former editor, so I have a little bit of a special affinity for librarians. And I was thinking, wow, 25,000 in one room together. That would be incredible. That,
well, you don't find them all in one place. They just take over this, seriously, 4 city blocks. And then they have 15 hotels you can stay in. My husband's going to be with me, and we're doing some fun things that aren't related to book sales. And so we don't stay in the big city. We go out and stay somewhere else. But
sure.
uh, yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good time. And are you going to be part of Tulsa Fest or Route 66 Fest? That's happening. I want to say, right. Actually, it's probably around the same time, isn't it?
Oh, there's several opportunities for me here in the state. Yes. Yes.
Well, there's the big centennial. Let's break the record for the most classic cars coming up on
Oh,
May
sure.
30th. That's
The
a
Capitol
Capitol
Cruise.
Cruise. There we
Yeah,
go.
the
Chase
Capitol
by
Cruise. I'm
April.
definitely going to be at that expo building
Hmm.
as a vendor, and I like that opportunity that Tulsa's giving me because there are going to be 300. There are about 400 cars short. So last night I saw a big pitch to say, "Oh, we just need 400 more cars." So, because their goal is 300 cars.
Oh no, 2,000. They want to
No,
get
I'm
about
sorry. I'm
2,000. Yeah.
sorry. I think it
Um,
might be, yeah, it's either 2,000 or 3,000.
yeah, exactly. I've heard
Sorry,
a
it's
couple
not,
different
yeah.
numbers. Yeah, it's either exactly 2 or 3,000, but it sounds like they're going to get there. And what really made me believe that they can get there, and I have this revelation every time I go to a Perkins or a kind of a chain diner type of a thing, is
Yes.
that even McDonald's now, when you go in there, they play 80s music that came from the 1980s. Well, when I
Yes.
was a kid and we went to the 50s diner, they'd play Elvis and they play the 50s music. That's now the oldies.
Yes.
What I grew up with is now, is now oldies, okay? And so that's not lost on me here. And I just got done doing an interview today with the Will Rogers Museum, and he mentioned the Capitol Cruise and how if you have a car before 1995 or 91, as soon as I heard 1990 blah blah, I went, "Oh my word, they could do this because you could still go buy a car from the 90s." Like you
Yeah.
could I mean, that's
Yeah.
like when I think of a classic car, I'm somewhere between, a 1966 Corvette and a Model T, right? That's my
Right.
idea of a classic car. And nowadays you can, probably pull in with a 1979 Gremlin and have it be called a model
Be a
classic.
vintage car.
Actually, that would be, especially with the movie Wayne's World making it so popular. But, well, that's a neat thing. So, and especially being in Tulsa, you've got a lot of opportunity, just being in Route 66 and having everything. So, that it's so remarkable how this road. What I marvel at is that the artists that this road has brought forward is remarkable. Like
Yes.
it has an attraction for artists.
Yes, it
That is
does.
very key. But it's also a road. And so you have to have, science and logistics and the not abstract thinking, but sequential thinking. And so when you can have something that really offers a yin and yang to life, which this does, and even so far you could say it's technically a national park. So
It is.
technically Route 66 is a beautiful park. It just
Right.
happens to be a road. That is
Right.
mind blowing to me. That's really what this whole thing represents. So go ahead on that. Yeah.
Oh, no, and I've heard it the same thing described as the linear uh, natural wonder, really. But I love sharing with people the writing that has come from it. You know, the Grapes of Wrath and Bob Dylan and the songwriters and the musicians who would
Hmm.
go and book their gigs on purpose. They would stay in Chicago, they'd go to St. Louis, come through Tulsa, Oklahoma to Arcane's Ballroom, go on over to Albuquerque. There's such a melting pot of the style of music, but also the need for it. Because, you know, people who were traveling then, they wouldn't just go one night and hop along. I mean, yes, a family that wanted to cover a lot of miles in a day that you'd have to, but there were also um, people that had retired, people that were military that wanted a super fun, relaxing trip, and they would take their time and they might hear that, you know, Ella Fitzgerald is going to be singing in Tulsa, and they might stay for 3 nights while she's booked here. So there's, like you said, there are so many reasons and features that draw people out to come to the route.
Well, I'm looking at the time here, and I've got to wrap her up because it's I got another interview actually lined up here. So what do we want people to walk away from? What do we want to plug again? Obviously, where to buy books and that sort of thing. But what do you want people to really remember about what you're offering on the Route 66 America? You know, the archives
Oh,
and the
sure.
Americana. Yeah.
Um, well, if you're on the route, I want you to be listening to the people. I want you to have fun and experience everything, but I want you to really take time, visit with those people in the stores who are ringing up your order or bringing you your food or booking your room for the night. You know, how long have you been in this area? How is your family here with you? How long have you been here? You know, listen to their stories. The other thing I want the takeaway is that there are so many stories um, to discover. You know, yes, those are people like me who've been, and anyone who's traveled and in a certain age range, you've been on the route. And like I have a lot of friends that went on it as children, but they haven't been on it in 20 years. So I always encourage them, well, take a short trip and see what you think. Um, so those are my takeaways. Listen to the stories and take time to smell the roses.
Annette LaFortune Murray, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you, Jason. It's really been a pleasure. Thanks so much.